Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It is a beautiful morning here in Kansas. It is a little chilly. Fall is definitely here, but I'm still drinking my cold brew because I'm hardcore like that. I gotta say, I'm really... This new Facebook Live thing that they do with this buffer, it was crazy. The last one I did just a couple of days ago, I didn't even see that there were all of these comments until after I'd already posted it and, had it all ready to go, because they're doing like a massive delay in terms of the broadcast and the interaction that we get. So my apologies that I can't really see any of your comments until well after the fact that you're making them. So I don't know what that means. I mean, I still enjoy the Facebook Live format, but until further notice, I'm going to keep doing them here. But I want to try to find another way to do this so that I can actually interact with you guys more and have some, I know that I can do that on YouTube, and maybe I'll just start doing it more on YouTube once I have a more stable connection, because as I mentioned in my last one, the connection here is not so great. Like literally the Wi-Fi router is right there. And I still drop in and out of clarity with the signal and the connection. But today I want to talk to you guys about this like massive heart field expansion that's happening right now. But real quick, before we get into it, I am going to be in LA October 26th and 27th. The 26th is the Thursday. I'm going to be at House of Intuition. I'll put all the contact info in the description. I'll be at House of Intuition doing private clients on Thursday, and I still have some spots available. And then Friday night, the 27th, is going to be the Becoming the Whole Self event. It's a 2-hour event. Very similar to the soul expansion for those of you who were involved in the soul expansion calls. So it's 2 hours of question and answer, intuitive insight, interaction with the group, and then the energy work, the sonic energy work for the last portion of the event. And these just are so much fun and so wonderful in terms of the energy and the frequency. And I got to do some energy work at the In5D Healing Conference recently, a couple of weeks ago when I was down in Sarasota. And the energy work, man, in person now, it is just getting so powerful and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm feeling like this balloon that just gets inflated to like massive, massive proportions with the energies that are coming through. So I'm really excited about that. I also have a date in November already for my classes there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll put that link there. And that one is going to be the heart portal activation, which it's funny because that's what we're talking about today. Is this heart field expansion. So, yesterday, let me just figure out how to, so yesterday I was sitting and, I try to start my mornings with some quiet time if I'm not meditating or journaling, just to sit and kind of be quiet. And so I was sitting in the sunroom having my coffee, and, I dropped into my heart, and I'm going to share with you guys a really quick, exercise of how to drop into your heart in a second. So when I'm talking about dropping into your heart, for those of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, it's really about just bringing your focus and your attention to your heart and to the heart center right here. Not necessarily physically your biological heart, although that's part of it, but just this center right through here, which is where we would perceive the heart chakra to be. So kind of above the sternum, between the pectoral muscles, below the throat here. So kind of in this area right here. And I dropped into my heart just, out of just a moment of feeling like, okay, I just sort of intuitively dropped in, and it was crazy. It was like all of a sudden, for a moment, there was this little bit of vertigo. Like it felt like, when you're on a roller coaster and you're cresting that big hill, the incline, and then right as you go into the decline for a second, like your heart drops or your stomach kind of drops and you feel like the floor is literally just like disappeared beneath you. And it was just this moment of this massive expansion. Like it was so big. And I felt like this moment of vertigo and almost a little bit queasy. And I was like, whoa, that is just so big. Like the field, the space, and the enormity of the space that I was suddenly taken into. And it struck me as very odd. And what it did more than anything was show me how much I was in my head this past week. And so I was like, okay, well, let me just check in and see what's going on. Because I think, oftentimes we don't even really realize oftentimes, or myself, I don't, sometimes I just get into autopilot and I just get into my day and I'm not really consciously always present. I think we go in these phases of being in and out of our awareness and in and out of different levels of consciousness. And I wasn't even really aware of how much I had been in the mental field until I dropped into the heart and got out of the mental plane and suddenly felt like, oh my God, I've been so much in my head. But I didn't really think that I had. And so I kind of checked in and I was like, okay, what's going on? What is this? And I said, what is this big drop in this sense of like just this weightlessness and being sort of untethered and sort of just in that void of the heart space? And the message that I got, the answer that I got was, the illusion of the stability, right? The illusion of the earthbound experience, the illusion of I go from point A to point B to point C and I have this linear experience and, there's cause and effect and there's this transactional experience of, okay, when I do this, then I get this in return, this very third dimensional, very limited perspective of life really is a training wheels of sorts. And it's not the rule. The 3D Earth experience is the exception. If we're talking about the entirety of, our experience and the entirety of the levels of awareness that we have access to. And the more and more we move out of this very linear, dense, lower frequency experience, the less we're going to have that illusion of the stability and the training wheels of, yes, you are rooted and grounded in this experience and that's all you have. And so, the response was like, well, you're always floating and you're always in the flow and you're always in this void of the 0 point and this void of, sort of all that is. Because if you think about it, it is the field of infinite potential is really where we reside. And that field of infinite potential holds all experiences, right? It holds all possibility. And so we have this pocket that we call the Earth experience. And then we have this pocket that we could call, sort of parallel lives. Or we have this pocket that we could call, future lives. We have this pocket that we could call, life in the 12th dimension or life on Mars or life, wherever. In the Andromeda galaxy, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when we really perceive that this field holds all experiences and we are in that field, we are of that field, and in essence, we are that field, we see that there is no singular point of attachment to any experience. It's only our awareness that creates the point of attachment. So it is only where I perceive myself to be that creates my point of connection to my experience. And when I allow myself to drop into the heart, which the heart field is a massive, massive energetic field. If we think of sort of the different levels of awareness that we have within our physical vessel, right? The fundamental ones would be the mental level, the emotional level, the physical level, the level of the heart field, and then there's just sort of your energy field in general. There's all these different levels of awareness that I, Andrew, the human self, can perceive and have access to. And of all of those, really, the heart is so massive and so expansive. So when I dropped out of the, and it's sort of like a spectrum. So if I think of like this would be the full spectrum of my experience. And then if I'm in the mental field, then it's really, really only this much of the spectrum that I'm existing within. And then the emotional field is maybe a little bit bigger. And then the heart field is a little bit bigger. And then the entirety of my energy field is much larger. And then so on and so on. So if I find myself in the mental field, I'm really only experiencing my, the bandwidth of my experience is like this big, right? If we're thinking of the spectrum of light, the spectrum of visible light is actually quite small compared to the full spectrum that we have available to us, whether or not we perceive it. And so as I dropped into the heart field and I felt this like, whew, it was just like all of a sudden it was like someone turned off the gravity and I was like in this free fall. The message very clearly was, well, that's how you really are. And this experience of your linear earthbound, life, while it is very real from the perspective of you as the human, and it is very necessary, and it is what you came here for, we also came here to move beyond the limitations of just seeing ourselves in this very limited way. And that sense of like being all of a sudden free falling and free floating at the same time, it felt like I was falling and floating at the same time. I always just think of that Sandra Bullock movie, Gravity, when she was just like, free falling in space. And for me, that was like a 90-minute panic attack. I swear to God, watching that movie was very, very traumatic, borderline traumatic. But it's this sense of removing the training wheels, in a more and more profound way. Like we are being slowly, and we have been and continue to be slowly, our awareness and what we can tune into and perceive slowly ratchets up, and it gets bigger and bigger and more expansive and less defined by that external experience, right? Because when you're in the earth experience and you're just grounded in your 3D life and that's all you perceive, and you think that your experience stops out here, you believe that the world is happening to you, right? You believe that you are defined by your external place. But as we move out of that, we begin to see that the only thing that really defines me is my belief and my perception of who I am and where I am in any given moment. And that is going to change, right? We are always going through, it's like, we're zooming in and out of different levels of awareness. Or if you think of a jewel that has, millions and millions of facets on it, like which facet I am perceiving at any given moment is what defines my experience. And all of those facets are available to me, and all of them are part of who I am. It just matters, the only difference is what am I really perceiving and where am I focused? But as I moved out of the mental field and dropped into the heart, I became very aware of how out of the heart I had been. And that's fine. I don't beat myself up for that. I'm not going to go on this big thing of like, oh my God, I got to get back. And no, it's just I was up here and now I'm down here in terms of, up here in the head and then down here in the heart. And so I was kind of, digging around in that idea, and I thought, okay, well, what is this all about? And I asked, like, what is this really related to for me? And I got a lot of it was that, this past week and a half, this past couple of weeks, we have been clearing a lot of old mental belief systems. And it's very interesting to me how if it's, if we're clearing, if I'm finding myself, like I know that my personal experience is always on all of us on some level, my personal experience is always a really, really big indicator of what's happening collectively. And if I'm in a very physical experience, if my body is really going through it, if I have lots of aches and pains, if my body is feeling like indigestion stuff, or if I'm just feeling physically tired, then I know that we're clearing a lot of cellular memory and we're clearing a lot of stuff from the body. Same thing, if I'm having a very emotional moment, then I can perceive that, okay, what I'm perceiving now is that we're having a very emotional experience collectively, and I'm seeing that mirrored in my own experience. And same thing with the mental field. And so what I'm seeing, a lot of what we've been clearing is these really, really toxic, imbalanced masculine programs. Hello, Harvey Weinstein, anybody? Like, it really makes sense now that we've been in these old belief systems, these old stories, these old mental neural pathways, these old biological ruts in our experience and in our behavior and in our actions are being cleared and are being rewritten. And as horrible and awful as these, allegations that are coming forth now for the, for everyone that Harvey Weinstein has, touched, for lack of a better word, and that's a horrible choice of words. Please forgive me. I don't know what, you know what I'm saying. No pun intended. We are seeing now this rising of people stepping forward and being vulnerable, of women specifically stepping forward and saying, you know what, I'm not going to let the fact that I have been abused or, that someone has raped me or someone has been the aggressor, that I have found myself, on the other end of this toxic, aggressive, predatory, imbalanced masculine behavior, and the rising of that power to say, you know what, I'm not going to hide in shame. I'm not going to hide in secrecy. I'm not going to keep this, information to myself anymore. I've been assaulted, and I'm going to step forward and I'm going to say so. And what that does is it's a massive opening of the heart field. It is a massive opening of this center of truth that we all hold, because the keys for everything reside in here. And so it's very clear to me now, I see that that's what a lot of this heart expansion has been about. And it's an interesting thing, because I was very surprised at how much this had affected me, and I wasn't really even consciously aware of it until after the fact, and I dropped into my heart and I saw, whoa, where have I been? Because this feels like massive and infinite and endless, and where I have been has felt very, in relation to it, has felt very tight and very constricted. And what I know is that what I see reflected in the collective experience will only mirror my experience when it is something that I am still processing internally in my own way. And there was clearly some, toxic masculine, imbalanced masculine patterns that were being purged within me. Otherwise, I would not have connected with that frequency, right? I'm not going to be able to hear the jazz station being broadcast if I don't have some sort of connection to it internally. And so I saw that. I was like, oh, I get it. It's these old ideas of competition, these old ideas of scarcity, these old ideas of needing to protect and defend and be very defensive and very aggressive, and this either or, I am the other and you are, this very separate energy, which is all part of that imbalanced toxic masculine. And so it's just very interesting to me to continue to see how, even at this point where I find myself, for the most part, I'm always kind of doing my thing. I don't really find myself getting tripped up much anymore these days. I don't find myself feeling at odds with my experience. I'm pretty much just always present and there. And yet, even still, this whole Harvey Weinstein thing, which he's just an avatar for this toxic energy we're clearing. Right? He's a symptom of a much larger problem, and I'm certainly not diminishing what has happened between him and the women that he abused and was the aggressor to and assaulted. But what I am saying is he is part of a puzzle. He's a piece in a very big puzzle, and these patterns are much bigger than one person. And it's just very fascinating to me how these things are affecting us on levels oftentimes that we're not even aware of. And so dropping into the heart is always a way for me to kind of gauge where I am in my experience and how do I get out of the cloudy level of the mental plane. Because the mental plane is always the plan and the control, and I got to figure it out, and I need an answer, and I got to put this here, and I got to label it, and I got to classify it, and I got to quantify it. And dropping into the heart, all of that falls away. All of the requirement for definition, the requirement for understanding from the mental perspective, the requirement for a label or an answer or a plan, or I need to be the savior or the victim or the loser or the winner or the successful or the unsuccessful one. As we drop into the heart, all of those definitions fall away, and we see ourselves expanding beyond them. And it is this image that I've seen time and time again in session with clients, and even in my group stuff. It's like there's all of these partitions, and as we drop into the heart, that this heart just levels all of those partitions. It's this field that just expands beyond it, and it just knocks down any illusion of separation, any little partition or mental structure that we have put in place, because the mind loves to pigeonhole and loves to compartmentalize. And so we move beyond that when we drop into the heart, because, there's an interesting website, the Heart Math, MATH, Heart Math Institute, has done all sorts of research on the field, the electromagnetic field of the heart. Maybe I need more coffee. And the electromagnetic field of the heart is 60, and I mentioned this before, times greater than the mental field, the field that the brain produces. So this is really the true center. So dropping into the heart is something that we can learn how to do. And it's something that it's like any other muscle. We just need to train it, and we just need to remember our innate connection to it. And the way that I always perceive it is, you know, when I find myself in any given moment, and if I'm really aware of my experience, I can kind of tune in and say, okay, where is my attention right now? Where is my focus? Because like I was saying in the beginning, right, it is only my point of attachment is my point of focus. So if I am, let's say I'm having physical pain, my point of attachment in my experience is in the physical body, and I'm very focused on my physical pain, and that is what is creating everything, right? If you've ever been in serious pain, or if you have chronic pain, that pain comes in and out of our awareness. And sometimes it's very subdued and we can let it recede to the background, and so it's not my primary focus. But the minute that pain is activated or something happens, it immediately comes back, and that's my point of attachment. So in any given moment, and you can try this at any time, you can try it right now, is just sort of coming into your body, just closing your eyes, and just kind of scanning, like, okay, where is my point of focus? And right now, I feel that I have a little bit of a crick in my neck right here. You know, maybe I slept funky. My shoulder is feeling a little bit, you know, sensitive. I probably slept too much on my left side last night. I'm definitely feeling a lot of stuff going on mentally, because right now, this exercise that I'm involved in, you know, with sharing this video with you, is, you know, in large part a mental experience. But then what you can do is you just say, okay, so I identify right now that my focus is on my head. I'm in the mental field. And sometimes what I also will do is I will just imagine, I'll see an outline of the body in my mind, and I'll sort of observe myself and say, okay, this is the outline of my body. Now just show me, self, where is my focus? And I can see like the head is lighting up. So I go, okay, I'm very much in the mental plane right now. So I just acknowledge where I am right now, like, okay, I'm in the mind, I'm in the mental plane, or I'm very emotional right now, or I'm in the, you know, the physical field because my shoulder hurts or whatever. And then I just imagine, okay, I've got my spotlight of my intention. My awareness is a spotlight. And right now my spotlight is in the mental field, so it's focused on the mind. And I am just going to slowly move that spotlight down to my heart. And I'm just going to change my focus, and I'm going to move that focus and that attention to my heart. And then I just sort of settle into the heart field. And immediately everything kind of goes quiet. Everything shifts in terms of my perception. And then it's like I can see physically with my eyes, I can see the trees outside the window, but it's my heart that I'm really using to focus. And so you do have to do this sort of simultaneous focus of, you know, okay, physically I'm seeing with my eyes, but it's really my heart that I'm seeing with. I'm feeling into it with my heart. I'm focused on my heart, and I'm imagining that I have that spotlight shining from my heart, and that's where my focus is. There's another exercise that you can do to create this state of awareness, because what this state of awareness requires is a still mind and a still body and a still emotional field to really focus in on the heart. So there's another exercise I'm going to give you, and this is one that I used to do a lot several years ago, and you're creating this, I think it's the theta state, where you can create this level where the mind goes really, really quiet, but you're still awake and alert and aware. And so what you do is you pick, so I'm looking peripherally, so you pick a spot peripherally, right? So I can say, okay, right now I'm looking at the camera, so I can see the little black dot of the camera on my phone. And then while I'm focused on the camera, peripherally, I can see a lamp out of the left-hand corner of my peripheral vision. So I am simultaneously looking at the camera, keeping my focus here, but also allowing myself to focus on the peripheral of the left. And then if you really want to get into it, then I can focus on what do I see to the right. I see a cardboard box to the right out of my peripheral vision. So at the same time, I'm focusing on the box over here, the lamp over here, and the camera right in front of me. And I can use this as an exercise to train my mind to perceive more than one tiny focused thing at a time. Because what this does is when you're in panic, when you are in defense, when you are in constricted fight or flight mode, the only thing you ever see is what's right in front of you, right? It's like it's like suddenly you're in a tunnel and you get tunnel vision and all you can see is right what's in front of you and you're just focused, and that adrenaline has you moving in a very defensive survival mode. But when you're relaxed, when you are in the heart center, all of that illusion falls away, and what becomes clear is the entirety of it, right? You see all of it simultaneously, and you allow yourself to perceive at multiple levels. And this is what I do when I'm doing a reading, is I am able to perceive what's going on in my body, what I see going on in someone else's body, also whatever messages I'm receiving, also whatever energy. So you learn how to create multiple levels of awareness and focus, and it's something you can teach yourself how to do. So this is a really quick way, or a good way. It's not quick, it takes some time, because these are faculties that we haven't been trained to really use. But this is a very real way to do this, is to do this multiple levels of focus. So try this wherever you are. Just look straight ahead. Maybe you're looking at me, maybe you focus on the design of my sweatshirt and you say, okay, I see the design on Andrew's sweatshirt, and you focus in on that. And then while you're holding your focus on this part of my chest right here, now you say, okay, now out of the left-hand corner of my eye, there's another thing that I see, and pick whatever is there. And then just for a second, allow yourself to perceive both of them at the same time, right? I can even see the thing on my sweatshirt. I'm still looking at the camera, but I can see the shape on my sweatshirt. I can see the lamp. I can still see the camera. Now we're going to add another one out of the right-hand corner of your eye. What do you see peripherally? Add something else to your awareness and just sit. And just sit and allow yourself to perceive all of them at the same time. And when you do this, you immediately sort of reverse that fight or flight panic state, and you can't help but be out of your head with that really tiny, focused, narrow perception of, the 10% of the spectrum. And you immediately broaden your perspective, and now you're opening yourself up, and okay, now suddenly there are other options, there are other ideas, there are other streams of input that I can have access to. There are, now I'm tuned into my body, and now I'm tuned in. So allowing yourself to tune into these multiple levels of awareness and training yourself how to do that teaches you how to immediately drop into the heart field. And then over time, it becomes something that is almost effortless, and you can do it like that. And so when we're dropping into the heart field, suddenly all those perceptions of what is standing in our way, or what is a threat, or what is a problem, fall away. And that allows us to, again, it's that attachment. Now I am not just focused and attached to one singular level of perception. Now I can take the bird's eye view and zoom out, and I can see it all, and I can go, okay, in this moment right here, my human experience of Andrew is having a challenge, is having a difficulty. But that is not the only level of awareness that I have access to. That is not the only level of awareness that I am. It was that pyramid analogy that I've been using, is that, the upside down pyramid. And the base of the pyramid, if it's upside down, is up here. And this is the full spectrum of all that I am and all of my awareness and the levels of consciousness that I have access to. And if I see myself as only at the base of the pyramid, or the tip that is, pointed down, that is my human self. And I see myself as this teeny tiny singular point of awareness that is now carrying all of this burden on my shoulders. But when I remember that, oh, I'm more than just a human level of awareness, there's mental levels, there's emotional levels, there's heart field, there's energetic, and then there's also my non-physical self, right? That pyramid gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly now my awareness is not focused in this singular little tiny point of attachment where I am this one little thing and all of my life is crashing down around me. So I just wanted to share this exercise with you, which allows you to choose your point of focus in any given moment. And it was a great reminder for me to realize that, oh man, I had been so stuck in my head and I wasn't even aware of it until I took the time to go, wait a minute, just drop into the heart and see where you are. And for me, dropping into my heart is always a good gauge of where I am. Because if I drop into the heart and I go, yeah, that feels cool, that feels comfortable. Okay, then I've probably been hanging around in there already and I'm just sort of in that same place. But if I drop into it and I go, wow, man, that just felt like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, that is always a really good sign that I've been in my head or in my emotions or, somewhere else. So I just wanted to share that with you because I know that we're going through a lot of, crazy stuff on the planet right now. And it's really easy to look at the news or look at what's happening on the planet, and not to say that these events are not catastrophic and then they're not very, upsetting to us, and to allow ourselves to have that human experience of, the wildfires and all these allegations and all the crazy political stuff. There's a lot happening. But suffering begins when we believe that all of this out here defines us. Because honestly, let's be real. If I look at the news, between Trump, Harvey Weinstein, and the fires in California, that alone, those two things is enough. If I believe that that's all that's happening and that that's the only game in town, then man, it's the fucking apocalypse, right? But if I let myself say, okay, I am observing this, I am aware of this, but this does not have to define me, then I can allow myself to pull back and expand my awareness, or drop into the heart and expand my field of attention and say, okay, yes, there are things right now that are happening that are horrible and awful. And yes, I want to help in the way that I can. But if I am coming from a place of being panicked and freaked out and defensive and sad all of the time, I'm never going to be able to help somebody, right? Put your own oxygen mask put your oxygen mask on first, and then you help somebody else. So allowing ourselves to come into this place of equilibrium and balance, or just connection with where we are, and say, okay, I'm just going to check in with myself first. I'm going to expand my awareness. I'm going to turn off the TV for a second. I'm going to stop clicking on those news sites to see if things are as shitty today as they were yesterday. Trust me, you don't need all the information all of the time. Do yourself a favor. Turn off the TV, set down the phone, turn off the laptop, go outside and take a walk. Take a hot bath, get a massage, cuddle your pet, sit with people that you love and have just a night of conversation where you can connect through here, rather than always being in the rat race of what's happening on the mental level and believing that all of these horrible things and that the world's coming to an end. Very well may be. And if the world is coming to an end, it's coming to an end, and there's nothing that you can do about it anyway, so let go. And just drop into the heart for 5 minutes a day. That's why meditation is so important, because that's what meditation kind of puts you in that position to do, is to unplug from here and go into observer mode and just be aware of what's going on. Just be aware. Just observe. Journaling is another great way to do it. Exercise is another great way to do it. So finding a way to unplug from this, get into here, and then trying those techniques of the multiple levels of, focus, and trying that several times throughout the day when you remember to. You can even do it when you're sitting on the couch watching TV. You can focus on the TV, focus on this, focus on that, and just allow yourself to train the mind to perceive things in a different way, so that you're not stuck in like, this is all that I see and this is all that I am. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I'm bummed that I can't see any of your comments, because I don't know what the delay is with Facebook Live now. I think it's like half an hour. They're making it's a half-hour delay before I see any of your comments. So whatever comments you've shared, I will read through them once this is posted. Again, check out I'll put all the links in the description for my LA classes, my private clients as well. So Los Angeles, October 26th and 27th, private clients on the 26th, the class on the 20th, or the workshop on the 27th. I also have some more availability in my calendar now. If you want to book a one-on-one energy session, I have opened up Fridays as well. So now I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday that my calendar is open. And that's it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I love you. Thanks for watching. Bye.